He's Tyler Jones. I am Harrison Graham. Coming up here on today's show, we're going to take a look at some college football playoff scenarios entering championship weekend. Who will be the top 4 teams in those scenarios? Well, first things first, Tyler. This is how things sit right now. Georgia holds at number 1. Michigan moves up to 2 after Ohio State lost. Washington, Florida State, and Oregon each slide up a spot. Buckeyes fall to number 6. I'll just also mention that Texas is 7, Alabama is 8. Those are the 8 teams still vying for the 4 spots. How do you think things sit right now as we enter championship weekend?
I think they are what we expected them to be, that we are seeing some consistency from the committee. They love the Oregon Ducks. That's been evident throughout this entire time. Some of you may be saying, why is Ohio State ahead of a team like Texas when they didn't win their conference and all that? Nobody is a conference champion yet.
Yep.
13th data point. You've heard it from the committee in the past. That is still to come. But I'm not surprised with where we're at now, but we still have a lot to unfold, a lot of chaos that could be coming.
Yeah, and if you're Texas and Alabama, Ohio State is not a concern. If you win your conference championship game this weekend, you will jump Ohio State because they do not have a conference championship game. That is why we have the Buckeyes in the long shot category. Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, and Washington, all unbeaten. The top 4 teams, they clearly control their destiny. Oregon is like 98% control their destiny. If they beat Washington, I firmly believe they will be in the college football playoff, but we can't say with certainty. Texas and Alabama right there on the bubble as well. They probably need a little bit of help in addition to, of course, winning their own game this weekend. Before we get into these scenarios, which 4 teams will make the college football playoff? Let us know what you guys think in the comments. Who will be the 4 teams come Selection Sunday? Go ahead and let us know. Let's dive into these, and the first 2 scenarios are kind of the least chaotic, Tyler. Let's start with the chalk scenario, and part of the chalk scenario is Washington beating Oregon, even though Oregon is favored in that game. It's very simple, Tyler. The 4 unbeatens win, and that's your college football playoff.
Right. Makes everything easy. Maybe you change the order a little bit of sorts, but
Oregon could jump Florida State, for example, in that scenario.
Right, but other than that, that is the drama-free scenario that could play out where everybody just wins, everything's happy, we sing Kumbaya, go on from there.
Misspoke there, by the way. Washington wins in this scenario, so I actually think the order would likely stay the same. Maybe Washington jumps Michigan after beating a top 5 team, but I doubt it. That's really the only drama-free scenario. I think any other of these scenarios, the committee at least has some level of a decision to make within the 4 teams. So let's get to scenario number 2. Chalk except Florida State loses to Louisville, okay? So Georgia beats Alabama still, they hold. Michigan beats Iowa, they hold. Washington beats Oregon, they hold. So that's the top 3. Florida State out. Texas wins as well. I think in this scenario, Texas should be the number 4 team, Tyler. I know Oklahoma State isn't like a wowzer type of opponent in the conference championship, but they would be 12-1. They would have a road win over a very high-quality Alabama team. Bama would have lost in this scenario. Ohio State wouldn't have played in this scenario. I think Texas would clearly be that 4th team. I don't think 2-loss Oregon would hold ahead of them. I think it would be the Longhorns.
Yeah, essentially you're comparing them to Ohio State.
Yeah.
Just down to those teams at that point.
Yep.
And a conference champion versus a non-conference champion, a Texas team that had the non-conference win against Alabama. To me, this would be an easy call. It's not that much chaos so much in this case.
Yeah, we're going to get to some chaos here in just a second. But join us Sunday. We'll be live to reveal the 4 college football playoff teams here at Chat Sports. We'll be live about 11:30 Eastern time, so make some mimosas, get ready, set your fantasy lineups for the NFL, and then come join us for a fun college football selection Sunday show to see who the 4 teams are in the final year of the 4-team playoff system before we shift to 12 teams next season. Okay, let's get to this scenario, Tyler. Alabama upsets Georgia. I think this is the one everybody's like, well, what if Bama wins? Okay, let's get to that then. Bama beats Georgia. Michigan wins, Washington wins, Florida State wins, Texas wins. So it's basically Bama then chalk in this scenario. Well, who are the 4 teams? I think this is when debate would start within that room, Tyler. To me, I would have number 1 Michigan versus number 4 Florida State. I'm going to leapfrog Texas over Florida State because I kind of think the committee is just going to leave FSU at number 4 because they have a backup quarterback. Washington plays Florida State, and as crazy as it sounds, in that scenario, the SEC is out. The question is, does the committee actually have the balls to do that?
Yeah, I think that's going to be very tough if that ultimately goes the way it does. For me, I think that Florida State moves up 1. It's hard for me to imagine Texas going all the way from 7 to 3. Not impossible, but to me, I think that Florida State would get the benefit of the doubt as still being an undefeated team, setting up a Washington-Florida State matchup. But at the end of the day, still, we agree the same 4 teams in this case.
Man, if the SEC's left out, that would be something. Prize Picks, today's sponsor, Daily Fantasy Made Easy. And if you want to have fun during championship Friday and Saturday in college football, get started with Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use our code CLNS. How to play? Simple. You create an account first of all. Use the code CLNS to get a deposit match up to $100. And then you start making entries, 2 to 6 player entries, college football, NBA, NFL, college hoops. You can cross over sports. I got a little 5-player entry in college football for these games this weekend. 5 quarterbacks. I like the less on Alan Bowman's passing yards right there. They're going to run the football a lot. I like Deacon Hill less on passing yards as well for Iowa. He's really struggled this year, as has that offense. Bo Nix, give me the more. I think he's going to try and make a statement and win the Heisman here. Michael Penix, I'm going to go less. And then Jalen Milroe, I'm going to go more on his passing yards. What's so easy about Prize Picks is you just go more or less. There's no complicated thing to do. You're not drafting players or something like that. You're not going up against players. It's just you versus the stat projections. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use our code CLNS and get started with Prize Picks today. That code CLNS gets you a deposit match up to $100. Let's get to another chaotic scenario, Tyler. Bama and Oregon win. Okay, so not only does Bama beat Georgia, Oregon beats Washington, and then all bets are off in this scenario.
Yeah.
Bama wins, Michigan wins, which, by the way, just teaser, we don't have Michigan losing to Iowa in any of these scenarios, or Oklahoma State beating Texas. Could have happened, perhaps. We don't see it, though. Oregon beats Washington. Florida State beats Louisville as well. And there's more than 5 scenarios, but these are the 5 we cooked up. So who are the 4 teams in this scenario, Tyler?
I think in this case, then we see Michigan, Oregon, Florida State, and Texas as the ones that get in. I think that Florida State in this case moves up to number 3. We see Texas move up to that number 4 spot. And at that point, I think you're looking at this one maybe a little easier for you and I to decide.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you have to value the head-to-head that Texas has over Bama, even if they beat Georgia.
And here's the thing. Texas almost has the head-to-head over Bama and Georgia in this scenario. Why? Because Bama would have the head-to-head over Georgia, but Texas would have it over Bama.
Right.
So, I don't see how the committee could sit there and act like this is a fair process if they put Alabama in over Texas. You want to put them both in, find a way to do that? Cool. But I don't see how you could put Bama in over Texas. That doesn't make sense to me.
And it would be the first time ever the SEC would miss the playoff.
And look, I get that would feel weird, and I get that that's the most talented conference. I don't think it's the best conference this year. I think the Pac-12 is better. And quite frankly, I hope this happens because I want to see if the committee has the stones to do it. I'm not convinced they do have the stones to leave the SEC out, but we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. Who is most likely to lose among the unbeatens, Tyler? I think it's pretty clear. It's one of those 2 teams on the right-hand side of your screen.
Yeah, I think that Washington's the most likely to lose with having the toughest competition, the toughest matchup this week. They're a 9-point underdog this weekend.
Which is a little disrespectful, by the way.
Oh, definitely. A team they beat earlier in the year. Florida State going up against a Louisville team that, look, Brom's a good coach. I think they're going to come out firing after that loss last week. that they suffered to the rival Kentucky. They got a conference championship to play for, trying to get the Orange Bowl here. Michigan seems like the only team that feels like a sure thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what the scenario is where Iowa beats Michigan. Like, I don't see how that happens. They just have no offense. Their defense might keep them in the game for a little while, but they're just not going to be able to score points. So let us know who you guys think is most likely to lose among the unbeatens. And then the ultimate chaos, Tyler, which it's chaos, but it's not like impossible when you think about it. Georgia losing to Bama, it's unlikely. It's not impossible. Washington beating to Oregon, they're underdogs. So that's definitely possible. And Florida State without Jordan Travis losing to Louisville is certainly possible as well. So in this scenario, Bama wins, Michigan wins, Oregon wins, Louisville wins, and Texas wins. Who are the 4 teams? And we see it the same way, Tyler. I think in that scenario, that is the committee doesn't have to choose between Bama and Texas scenario. They're both in, and then Michigan and Oregon are in as well.
And it's the only scenario that has a clear path for Bama to make the playoff.
I think so, too. At least like a clear logical path.
Right.
Now, here's what I do wonder. If Bama is hot early in that game and they're up, 10, 14 points, if you're Nick Saban, don't you have to run it up? Like, I think you have to try to blow out Georgia, I think. Like, just beating them is not guaranteeing a playoff spot in my eyes.
Absolutely. And part of the appeal from that Ohio State team in 2014,
they blew out people late in the season.
And in that Big Ten title game, they kept on going and kept on going. So I would expect if Alabama has the opportunity to put the pedal to the metal and run up the score, they will. What 4 teams will make the college football playoff when it's all said and done? We have given you all our scenarios. Now let's hear from you. Way in the comment section, touch your crystal ball and tell us who you think is going to get there.
And don't forget, join us Sunday, final 4-team playoff revelation. I just want drama for the final time, right? The first year was the most drama we ever had in the playoff where TCU dropped from 3 to 6, and this year it feels like chaos could ensue as well. Unless all 4 unbeatens win, it feels like there will be at least some level of a decision that has to be made. So join us Sunday. We'll be here for all of it. Should be a lot of fun here at Chat Sports.